Better do something, boy, don't do nothing. Better do something, boy, don't do nothing. Better do something, boy, don't do nothing.
It's
Better
Friday,
do something,
the
boy,
7th of October, 2022. And as always, I'm Alex on the Pennant Podcast, here again with Peter.
Hello, I'm Peter.
So we're going to go into some Canadian politics to start us off here. Everybody's favorite topic of interest.
Yeah.
Very big week in provincial politics across the country.
Mm-hmm.
We have François Legault re-elected with a very solid majority.
Yeah, like 90 seats, I think, a supermajority.
Yeah, whereas the next party had like 21 and then like 14.
Yeah.
So, CAC, Coalition Avenir, Quebec, has another massive mandate.
Mm-hmm.
And Danielle Smith as well in Alberta.
Yeah.
Which is a little different because that was not a provincial election. It was a party leadership election. The UCP, United Conservative Party of Alberta, was electing a new leader after the resignation of Jason Kenney. So it was a little bit of a Boris Johnson, Liz Truss situation.
Yeah.
For our British listeners, who actually outnumber our Canadian listeners, believe it or not.
Hello.
At the current moment. So if you're there in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, how's it going, everybody?
Cheerio.
Yeah. At any rate, now Danielle Smith is going to be Premier of Alberta. Is she technically Premier right now, or is she I
think she's getting sworn in next week, I think.
Okay. I figured there was some...
Yeah, but she's holding a caucus meeting. So she's the leader.
She's the leader.
But she's not the premier, I think, until she gets sworn in or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that race was much closer than in Quebec. Now, of course, that was a party race.
Yeah.
But she beat Mr. Taves, Travis Taves, I believe, something like 53 to 47 on the final ballot. So it was actually pretty close.
It went 6 ballots.
The big story is that Brian Jean kind of imploded a little bit towards the end there. And I guess a lot of his support went to Smith. At any rate, that's really shaken up the political landscape in Canada, even though, ironically, nothing changed. We still have a Conservative government in Alberta, and we still have a CAC government in Quebec.
Yeah.
So I guess that should be the first question that we address is, seeing as nothing has really changed in an electoral math kind of sense, what has actually changed? And my first kind of gut answer to that is replacing Jason Kenney with Danielle Smith is a pretty big deal.
Oh, 100%. It's a huge deal. I was telling you last night, texting you, basically, I don't know if you or any of our listeners, viewers remember this. Maybe if you're from the UK, you probably don't. We have a magazine called Maclean's here in Canada, which is, I guess, kind of our version of Time magazine.
It's
or
like the
Newsweek.
Prestige glossy weekly magazine.
Yeah. And they publish this famous cover of a bunch of the two former conservative leaders ago, Andrew Scheer, and then the leaders of different conservative parties, different conservative premiers across Canada, Doug Ford. I think, what's his name, like Brad Wall was on there.
Yeah.
I don't know if Legault was on it.
I think he was.
Might have been. I don't know. I'd have to pull this up. But a few kind of prominent conservative politicians. Jason Kenney was definitely on it, I think.
100%.
And pretty much, I forget what the headline was, but pretty much the idea of the article was that, there's this new school of kind of conservative leadership across the country that we're going to usher in, kind of be this opposition kind of block, this blue block against the Trudeau Lib agenda. And then that kind of spectacularly fizzled out, where either the people on that cover turned out to not be conservative at all and just governed as blue liberal or liberal liberals.
That's true of the big three of Kenney, Legault, and Ford for sure.
Yeah.
They all governed during the pandemic more or less as blue liberals. Even Kenney, who was saying, Alberta will not have a vaccine mandate and so on, even he caved on that.
Yeah.
In the end.
And then of course, Andrew Sheen, not Andrew Sheen.
Andrew Scheer.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen. He didn't even get a chance to govern because he lost that race. Yeah, so this is the picture. I don't know if you guys can see it on my phone here, but that's the picture. And literally the title is The Resistance, and it has Doug Ford, Andrew Scheer, Jason Kenney, Brad Wall. I don't know who.
Scott Moe?
Scott Moe, maybe? Wait, is this Scott Moe? Is this guy? Honestly, I can't tell you.
This is embarrassing. But anyway.
But basically, Andrew Scheer lost the 2019 election. Jason Kenney basically was ousted by his own party before capitulating on COVID lockdowns and stuff. And Doug Ford implemented one of the strictest lockdowns in Ontario, along with a bunch of other Lib policies.
Yeah.
You know. So basically, my long-winded point here is that this emergence of Daniel Smith, just a month after Pierre Poilievre took the leadership of the Federal Conservative Party, shows that there could be potential for this new resistance, but for real. Basically, it's the blue resistance, but real this time.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what your take on it was.
No, I totally agree. In fact, you're making me want to Photoshop a new Maclean's cover.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
If I have the time this evening, I'll try to do that
for the
before
thumbnail.
the episode goes up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. That is like the big news here is that now, you know, you have Daniel Smith, who we've talked about in the past, you know, bringing forward things like the Alberta Sovereignty Act in her agenda, looking to differentiate the role of the province from the federal government, looking to protect provincial jurisdiction from federal overreach. So when that was kind of the explicit centerpiece of her campaign, it is a serious mandate now that she's won and is the presumptive premier of Alberta, that in Canada's kind of right-wing heartland, we're not going to have, you know, conservatives in name only with the reins of power there anymore. And the fact that, you know, Daniel Smith and Brian Jean are such iconic Wild Rose members from back in the day.
Yeah, basically the Wild Rose has completely swallowed the PC.
Yes, at first. And there was huge backlash against Danielle Smith because she was instrumental in the vote to merge the two parties.
Yeah, people viewed it as a betrayal.
Even Danielle Smith has been publicly apologetic about it. Has said in the past, although I don't know if she would say that today based on how things wound up, but she's said in the past that it was a mistake, that she regrets what she did. But now, after the Wild Rose Party was swallowed by the Alberta PCs, now Wild Rose has swallowed them right back.
Yeah, it's crazy to think how much that shifts, you know what I mean? And federally, you could see the Poilievre camp. We could get to, what's her name? Garner.
Oh,
Michelle
yes, Michelle
Rempel.
Rempel Garner.
Yeah, you know, at some point. But it's an inflection point, I guess. And even I wanted to say, if we're going to do that cover, we have to include, I think his name's like Eric Duhaime or something.
Oh, the Quebec, Conservative Party of Quebec.
Leader, who basically... He did a decent showing. I think he got close to like 14 or 15% of the vote, but no seat, because how the seat broke down in Quebec was basically the CAQ just dominated.
Yep.
And then the Liberals, all the other parties basically hovered around like 13 to 14 to 15%. The Liberals became the official opposition with 26 seats.
But you had the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the PQ.
And the Quebec Solidaire.
Being polled around 15%. Yeah, and Quebec Solidaire.
Yeah, like literally 4 opposition parties, all polling around the same 15% range.
With CAQ getting roughly the other 40.
Yeah.
So.
Getting different amounts of seats, and the Conservative Party Quebec getting none.
They had the least efficient vote as well.
Yeah.
Like, because they're kind of more of a movement party.
Whereas the Libs and Quebec Solidaire are concentrated in Montreal.
They have geographic advantages.
Yeah. So, but I think he deserves to be part of the resistance, given the fact that we're even talking about, like, I didn't even know Quebec had a conservative party.
They really didn't. They had a Progressive Conservative Party of Quebec. This is by my understanding, and I'm a lifelong Ontarian, so take it with a grain of salt. But they had a Progressive Conservative Party that was basically a pet project of a couple of like rich Anglo-Montrealers. And it was basically like the we're against Bill 101 party. But they weren't really serious.
Yeah.
And this new Conservative Party of Quebec is much more serious.
Wait, it's brand new? Like 2022?
So I actually don't know officially, like, if it is a new party or if it's
just resurrected
version of the Quebec PCs brought to a much broader audience. The Conservative Party of Quebec is interesting because they're pretty moderate in some ways, but in other ways, they're kind of a provincial PPC.
I was just going to say, they're the provincial people, the PPPC.
They're the People's Party of Quebec.
Yeah.
That is very
Basically.
accurate. And in fact, Maxime Bernier, who Canadians know as the man who narrowly was defeated by Andrew Scheer in 2017, and then went on to found the PPC, the populist kind of right-wing libertarian party in Canada. He said that the Conservative Party of Canada was too intellectually and morally corrupt to be reformed, and that's why he left and founded his own party.
Yeah.
But he endorsed Eric Duhaime and the Conservative Party of Quebec, which proves that that party has serious intellectual credibility on the right, even among people who are not comfortable with the federal Conservative Party.
Yeah. I just looked it up on Wikipedia. Apparently, this iteration was founded in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. But they were never really a serious party until this election.
Yeah, because they took that kind of PPC kind of angle. Because Quebec politics is so...
Yeah.
It's so, like,
so the way that it worked when we
know?
were, like, growing up
Yeah.
was that essentially you had two parties.
A Federalist Party and a Separatist.
Federalists and Separatists,
The Liberals were the Federalist Party, the Parti Québécois were the Separatists, and, like...
Jean Charest was premier.
Basically, on the political spectrum, would the Libs be more conservative?
So they're kind of a center-right to center-left version of the Liberal Party. They're nowhere near to the right as the BC Libs.
Yeah.
But they're slightly more probably like center-right generically than the Ontario Liberals. But they were basically the Federalist Party and the kind of the Anglo Rights Party, but not really.
And I guess the PQ, I think they were more left on like issues of like social assistance and welfare. But when it came to immigration... They're definitely more right. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you brought up immigration.
Because that's the thing. Because it's like, even with like the CAQ, right? They're considered like a center-right party, right?
Yes.
But, so like, I get like when you come, but Legault initiated like the harshest lockdowns in North America, even the world in some aspects of it.
Yes, there were curfews.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And his immigration minister during the election said that 80% of immigrants don't work or speak French or adhere to Quebec values. Legault made some comments that some people interpreted as anti-immigrant as well. I think basically he condemned his minister and then made his own immigration comments.
I don't know exactly what he said, but I saw that.
Yeah. So on immigration, they kind of took a hard kind of angle on it, I guess. And like, I don't know, pretty much my whole take is that Vichy Quebec lives on through this election.
Culturally, yes.
Because pretty much Legault, honestly, he might be one of the most brilliant politicians in Canada.
He is. Francois Legault, and just so that nobody gets this twisted, I think both of us would say is one of, if not the most talented politician of this generation.
100%. Because he's able to tack hard right on certain issues, but also hard left on other certain issues, and in the middle where he needs to be. And like,
he's a pure populist.
Yeah.
Like in the purest sense.
He'll do whatever polls right. And there's the McKinsey angle, right?
Yes, the McKinsey scandal.
That we were talking about.
So recently it came out that the Quebec government paid the American consulting firm McKinsey, which famously had Pete Buttigieg for a while there.
Yeah.
But McKinsey is a large consulting firm. They were running the Quebec government's COVID response. So all of those people who were shocked that this, based right-winger Francois Legault has turned against his own people and he's implementing all of these authoritarian measures and, how is Justin Trudeau the premier of pandemic Quebec? What's going on? Well, it's because McKinsey was running the whole thing and Legault was basically just following their advice to a T uncritically.
And was McKinsey running, they were running the pandemic response or like the PR kind of? Or was the pandemic response informed by the PR?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Throughout Canada, throughout the pandemic, much of the pandemic response was informed directly by police.
Yeah, look at the ArriveCan thing, right? There's those
oh my God, yeah.
documents, right, or something that could leak saying that the government didn't decide to put in the ArriveCan restrictions until basically, was it the polling? Man, I don't want to get this wrong, but pretty much the idea is that they used it as an election. Okay, this is how it went down. So pretty much they decided that this was a good wedge issue to use, and basically they weren't informed by the science. They basically decided that, okay, we're going to run an election on this, because he announced this like the day before or a week before he announces the 2021 election. And pretty much they announced these ArriveCAN restrictions, and then they tried to figure out ways to make the science kind of support it.
Yes.
But they didn't have science supporting it.
Well, and of course, people joke about it, but the person who supposedly made the final call in favor of vaccine mandates had a degree in English literature.
Wait, what? Who?
I don't know if we have her name, but...
oh my God.
Yeah. And, you know, I also have a degree in English literature, so does that mean that I'm qualified to comment and say whatever I want about
I guess so.
vaccine
I guess so. Yeah. And I guess back to the Quebec thing, I found the Legault quote. He says accepting more than 50,000 immigrants in Quebec per year would be a bit suicidal.
Yeah.
And this was after he condemned his immigration minister for making anti-immigrant remarks. So yeah, Quebec is interesting, and like the fact that like the Conservative Party Quebec could actually, you know, do so well, I guess, considering that environment, you know what I mean? Like an actual kind of right-wing party for real this time.
Yeah. Not just right-wing in the sense of Quebec's social values, but right-wing in the sense of, you know, kind of general values of limited government.
100%. Yeah. Because I've seen a few interviews and read some stuff about Duane, and yeah, it's pretty much, you know, basically general kind of conservative values. I don't know if the camera moved a bit, but...
A little bit of wind gusts here. So it is very cold today. Yeah. And it is quite windy, and we're in kind of a dead spot with the wind, but obviously not completely dead. Mm-hmm. But you know, we like to get out in nature when we do these, and it certainly makes the background prettier than if we just did it inside somewhere. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I guess to kind of summarize that topic, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think the resistance is real, the second iteration of it?
Yeah, we just have to see the Conservative Party under Poilievre actually follow through with their promises. And this would actually be a pretty good segue into the Michelle Rempel Garner segment. Okay. Because I'm going to make an analogy here with Michelle Rempel. So
yeah, before that, do you want to check the camera to see if we will be back with Michelle Rempel Garner.
Okay, so Michelle Rempel.
I'm sorry.
I don't even know where to start this. There's a specific analogy that I want to make to our previous topic.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just make that, and then we'll fill in the blanks after.
Okay.
So Michelle Rempel made a big show on Tuesday of getting right with the Pierre Poilievre version of the party, basically. Yeah. And then the next day, she writes a very, like, Patrick Brown-ish op-ed in the National Post.
Yeah.
So it's just another example of another conservative saying, no guys, I'm true blue for real this time. And then the next day, they're just like, no, not really. I was kind of kidding about that stuff.
And I guess describe what she did, like the woke shit saga that you beautifully illustrated in the Pennant.ink.
Thank you. I have to confess, I'm very proud of those 2 articles. So I wrote 2 articles about Michelle Rempel on the site. You can check it out, pennant.ink. And on Tuesday, Michelle Rempel was in the House. She was delivering remarks during debate on Bill C-30. And she prefaced her remarks by going on about the cost of living and inflation, and she's talking about kitchen table issues, cost to Canadian families. And she says that the government's woke agenda is out of touch and it's hurting families economically, which is all true. And then she gets to the climax of her remarks. Enough with the woke shit.
Yeah.
And of course, she immediately retracts this as unparliamentary, which it was. But it triggered my spidey senses. It was like, okay, so you have Michelle Rempel, who started her career as a Harper stalwart. She is the member from Calgary Nose Hill. She was supposed to be the true blue, you know, young conservative woman, like Rona Ambrose 2.0, basically. And Michelle Rempel has had a real woke streak over the past few years. And that culminated this summer when she was the co-chair of the Patrick Brown campaign, which was waging holy war on Pierre Poilievre as some kind of a racist, neo-Nazi, white supremacist, Pat King apologist.
Yeah.
So we all know what happened with the Brown campaign. It fizzled out. He got disqualified. Poilievre won a crushing victory. So it seemed like, okay, Michelle Rempel, here she is, she's gotten right. She's talking about pocketbook issues and blah, blah, blah. The next day, she writes this op-ed in the Post, which again, kind of veiled with woke shit, and yet denounces woke stuff in the title of the op-ed. So the natural instincts I had on Tuesday night, this is a political moment that she's manufacturing. She totally vindicated that the next day with a fat op-ed in the Post.
Yeah.
At any rate, this is all to say, you have to be very careful with Canadian conservatives because they're conservative 1 minute and then they will woke out on you the next minute, all while condemning, woke culture, cancel culture, whatever.
It was just such a bizarre op-ed because, like, the text of it was kind of solid. Like, it did have some allusions to woke stuff and kind of, I guess looking out for marginalized people or whatever, while being fiscally conservative or whatever, But then the part that caught my eye, and you talk about in your second column is the Erica Iffel article that it links to.
Oh, my Lord.
And this is like a Hills Time article and basically talks about, man, this is such a convoluted
She goes
mess.
off in a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a conspiratorial fever dream aspect to her piece.
Yeah.
She talks about how Aaron O'Toole promising to defund the CBC was the same as Donald Trump creating fake news that caused somebody to shoot up a
Maryland newspaper
in 2018.
Yeah.
And she just makes all these kind of unhinged allegations.
Goes after Andrew Coyne for running defense for Tamara Lich, even though Andrew Coyne was the biggest fucking boomer anti-convoy pearl clutcher,
we would go down and record the events with our eyes and our phones and see what was really going on foot.
Yes, and then we'd be on the ground playing
the
At Issue
clips from At Issue
on our phones, and Andrew Coyne is just
Raj being to the right of Andrew Coyne.
Yes,
I was like, what the hell are we watching?
Yeah, but apparently to this reporter, Erica Iffel, Andrew Coyne is like a convoy apologist.
He's Pat King.
He's the leader of the Tamara Lich fan club, and that is bad for women journalists apparently, like, and basically this article that Iffel wrote was inspired by these harassment messages, threats of assault and other things that her and her female journalist colleagues have been getting, and
which, to be clear, we unequivocally condemn.
Yeah, of course, but these type of articles, or not even articles, these campaigns where they've lobbied the Ottawa police and the different police services, you know what I mean? Fucking Pierre Poilievre wanting to defund the CBC is apparently like toxic misogynistic rhetoric. It's all a means to an end. Now, I'm not saying that, women and marginalized people don't have the right to challenge and defend themselves against harassment, but the idea that we could do anything to stop that beyond filing a police report and investigating it like any other crime, because harassment's already illegal. You know what I mean? There are tools. Not saying that the criminal justice system works. Obviously, they don't catch the majority of people doing this stuff. But, like, what else do you want to do? And if you read between the lines, it always leads to censorship and deplatforming of any type of criticism. And even the idea, like, of harassment. Now, I didn't view the messages that these women got, allegedly.
Neither did I, so I had to take Iffel's word for it.
But
which I was willing to do.
Yeah, let's take their word for it. But other people take their word for it. They say, I'm gonna like kind of spoil a little bit of what we'll talk about next, the Kanye situation.
Oh yes.
But I've seen like brain dead takes online where like, Gigi Hadid, criticized Kanye for the White Lives Matter shirt, and then Kanye fires back at her, criticizing her criticism, but Kanye's harassing, but Gigi Hadid isn't harassing Kanye. Right. So basically, any sort of pushback on the internet, particularly if it's a woman, is harassment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not to mention the men that deal with harassment and stuff all the time too, but that just gets ignored, and it's just a whole kind of rabbit hole that ultimately leads to censorship. Now, I'm not saying that going after criminal harassment and threats is bad. Like, police need to take those seriously.
No, that's not censorship.
Yeah.
That's law enforcement.
But the idea that Pure Poilievre campaigning on the idea to defund the CBC, or not even him, Aaron O'Toole, like, of all people, is like
Blueface, baby,
caping for internet misogynists. It just doesn't make sense. And back to the whole Michelle Rempel Garner thing, the fact that she quoted that article, not even quote a link to it, in the fucking
with no pushback, no criticism, nothing.
Yeah,
just literally, here, take this at face value. Like, what?
Like, you could tell a lot by a politician based on what they're reading,
or what they admit to reading.
Yes,
for sure.
You know what I mean? And the fact that Michelle Rempel read that article and was just like, yeah, this sounds coherent. It's very troubling, and it questions this whole woke shit saga.
It really does. Like, so, okay, my theory is that somebody had polling, somebody in the Rempel camp.
Oh, for sure.
About this, enough with the woke stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they realized that poll, or that phrase polled well. Mm-hmm. So I think they saw, like, let's go Brandon potential. Yeah. And they tried to meme enough with the woke shit into reality. That's my going theory.
And it almost worked, except, like, I'm sure most people won't see this National Post article, so I'm pretty sure it won't. I mean, it won't. See, look, she's already in my head. It worked, at least on the CTV clip of it. Majority of people...
All the comments were like, you go, girl.
Yeah,
like,
girl power.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
girl boss 2022. So, hey... I'll give you a golf clap for that.
I scrolled through those comments, and I actually wrote a comment on the Pennant account that turned into my original article on Michelle Rempel.
Oh, really? What was the comment?
I don't know exactly, but as I said, it turned into the article.
Oh, okay.
So anything I said in the comment, I ultimately said in a more elaborate way in the article, but it's because I was reading the comments, and I was just so shocked that every single comment, and I mean, I knew most of them would be positive, but I was expecting at least one person would be like, I don't know,
I saw
guys,
a couple.
Remember what she was doing back in June?
I saw like two of them that were like calling into question, but the overwhelming majority was like girl power 2022.
And again, like 80 to 90% of what she said was accurate.
Yeah.
And deserved to be said. So we're not criticizing Michelle Rempel for being wrong about everything, like, not at all.
We're not criticizing the message, we're criticizing the messenger.
The messenger and the messaging and the whole kind of stunt atmosphere.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Do you think the whole woke shit slip up was genuine? Because if it was, she's a pretty good... If it wasn't, she's a pretty good actress.
I think she retracted it so quickly.
That's the thing.
I'm 80% it was a stunt, 20% it was a happy accident. So I'm not saying... unequivocally that yes, it was a stunt, but I'm definitely leaning strongly in that direction, and the fact that she retracted it within 2 seconds and then reiterated it with the word stuff replaced, and
but she said the word stuff before
ready to go
too
in the post the next day.
Well, yeah, the op-ed's kind of sus.
That's to me that, like, I thought it was a stunt before the op-ed. Okay,
no, me
and
too.
And then the op-ed dropped, and I was like, wow, I've been completely vindicated for my first first article.
No, it definitely was a stunt. I'm just saying the word shit. Was that a stunt? Because she says stuff before in the beginning of the speech, and then she slips into shit.
I'm inclined to believe it was a stunt.
The whole thing.
Because, again, she wouldn't have gotten any attention from this if she had not
just said woke.
Shit.
Yeah.
She would have gotten a few, like, the conservative YouTube, like, CPAC gang would have been
true.
like, yeah, Michelle Rempel, but that would have been it. But because she used unparliamentary language, and the Post had the emergency article about, unparliamentary language alert, and it's like, they knew what they were doing. They realized that if they just said shit, they're going to get media coverage.
Yeah, no, you're right. She's a really good actress then. Like, I think she should change her career. She's a better actress than politician then, if that's the case.
Well, I said at the end of the first article that I think she would be a good mayor of Calgary. I'm going to stick by that.
No,
as far
for
as
sure.
Plan B careers for Michelle Rempel, I think landing there makes sense.
Yeah, because remember the whole running for premier thing we talked about last time.
Yeah,
Like,
she
that's
would have
not
been running
happening.
as Jason Aaron O'Toole Kenny
Yeah.
against Danielle Smith. Like,
So that's
no.
not happening. She's not going to be
Not
premier of
happening.
Alberta. Calgary, the fact that they elected their second quote unquote
second woke
progressive.
mayor in a
Yeah.
row. Yeah.
Yeah. Or did they? I know Edmonton elected a woke mayor. The woman mayor. Who's that woman? I forget her name.
I
but
forget her name too, but I know who you're talking about.
I don't know who Calgary elected.
They also elected, I believe, a female mayor.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's see. Mayor Calgary. Who is the mayor of Calgary? Oh yeah, it is her, Jyoti Gondek. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So obviously she's going to be the mayor of Calgary for at least a couple more years.
Yeah.
But I think logically, like, I don't know, 2024, 2025, whenever it is
Yeah.
a logical time for Michelle Rempel to run for mayor of Calgary.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that. Yeah. And yeah, she would definitely be. Would you even say she's to the right of Nenshi and this current lady? I don't even know. Nenshi might be to the right of her.
So I will say some nice things about Michelle Rempel now.
Yeah.
You know, because again, I want to be clear. I don't hate this woman. I don't have a vendetta against her. I don't really have a problem with her. I think she's intelligent. I think she's capable. She's generally pretty good on economic stuff.
Yeah, like oil.
Like, she actually is, in a lot of ways, a standard issue Alberta conservative.
Yeah.
She just drags all of this Patrick Brown, Ottawa bubble, Laurentian bullshit
Yes.
into that Alberta conservative mold.
Yeah.
So when I say, oh, like, Michelle Rempel, she's a fake conservative, like, I don't mean that fully or in, like, every way.
No.
But-
And we're not saying that you need to be 100% like trad wife, social conservative.
Oh, God, no.
To be a real conservative. Because the one thing I'll give her credit on is like she led the movement, or she was part of the movement led by, I guess, the Young Conservatives. This is years back, where they changed the constitution of the Conservative Party of Canada to remove them being against gay marriage or whatever. It was some anti-gay article in their constitution that they removed, so they became officially a pro-gay party, which I think was just like a, what do you call it, no-brainer kind of thing. Like, literally,
Yeah.
if you look at the history of the CPC,
Well,
it's basically
been a
run
gay
by
party
gays
for a
anyway.
long time,
So they
yeah.
just made it openly gay.
Yeah,
You know
okay,
what I
I
mean?
like that.
So
They
stuff like that.
decloseted the party.
Yeah, 100%. You know, stuff like that, you know,
Yeah.
like I give her credit for, you know. But this other woke pandering shit that she's pretending to be against, yeah. Anyways, do you want to get into PDS? Because I think this is a good
this
transition.
is actually an excellent transition into Poilievre Derangement Syndrome.
So this weekend, we have a running joke where we're pretty much the pure Poilievre communications team.
Yeah, we basically just run defense for the guy, and
Yeah.
you know, and as I've said on the pod, I do not intend to vote Conservative in the next federal election. Let me make that perfectly clear. I'm running defense for Poilievre for free, and I'm not even going to vote for the guy.
Yeah. And that's because we are desperately waiting for them to come with some ammunition, something cancelable
Yeah.
against him that actually makes somewhat
Or even
sense.
a real question.
Yes.
Like, give us something. Because I've said it before. I've said it in
Yeah.
articles on the site, and I've said it on the show. I have real questions for Pierre Poilievre.
Well,
that I
yeah.
would like to hear him answer.
Like stuff about,
Unfortunately-
you know,
sorry.
the World Economic, like I know he's dismissed the World Economic Forum conspiracies, but stuff even talking about like his pro-business credentials, like our NDP friend, Sean, he brought up issues to me about how like the Conservatives voted against, what was it? The NDP had this motion about going after the grocery chains for like price fixing, and the Conservatives voted against it. I haven't seen any coverage of that in the news. So if you want to attack him on something, at least something more substantial like that, at least, you know what I mean?
The problem was that was never a serious proposal. It was just NDP showboating. So
Well, yeah, I believe,
they
like,
can't
I don't.
really rake Pierre over the coals for voting against
And
it.
the Liberals voted against it too.
Yeah, of
So
course.
of course the media, you know, they're going to
They're
play.
not going to attack Pierre on that.
Yeah, because
Like-
then they'd have to attack Justin. So, but that's what I'm saying. At least that would be something.
Yeah.
So this week in PDS, it's a severe case of PDS this week. PDS sounds even worse than TDS.
Yeah,
You
it
know what I
actually
mean?
does.
Like PDS sounds like chronic, man. Like,
Yeah,
you
it's a
know what I
chronic
mean?
condition.
Yeah, man. But anyways, this week in PDS, I've never thought I would hear the word MGTOW addressed in
my
prom day.
Lord, I was wondering where you were going with that.
So
oh my God.
basically, it's just so comical. I can't even believe it. The internet, I hate it when the internet and real life
Intersect.
yeah, like the two, it just sounds like something that shouldn't meet, you know what I mean? But anyways, the libs in the media, by extension, were attacking Pierre Poilievre because apparently someone on his team who was posting YouTube videos from his YouTube channel, I don't know, was it the Poilievre account or was it must have been his account, or was it the Conservative Party account?
I think it was his account.
Yeah, correct us if we're wrong, but we're pretty sure it was his account on YouTube. They tagged a bunch of videos with hashtag MGTOW, which is an acronym, men going their own way. And basically, the libs and the lib media were talking about how this is a misogynist, anti-woman hate organization, hate group, and they're asking him to, you know, apologize and take accountability for being anti-woman. And he obliged them, and he said that, you know, we condemn this group, and basically the party was like, yeah, we stand behind our dude. And that was kind of it, I guess. And Pierre Poilievre shot back and promised by saying, you know, will Justin Trudeau apologize for, you know, firing women who challenged him, like Jody Wilson-Raybould? Will he apologize for wearing blackface so many times that he couldn't even remember how many times? And I brought up to you, I sent you an article about Trudeau talking about how he had no recollection of groping a female reporter back in 2000, even though he did apologize to her, but he had no recollection of it, of why he was apologizing against. So anyways, what should we address first? Let's address MGTOW first, I guess.
Okay, actually, you can fill me in a little bit.
Okay, I'm the MGTOW expert.
Well,
the MGTOW cores, no.
No,
but yeah, I get it.
Because the thing about MGTOW, and you know, I've been with the same girl for like coming up on almost 9 years.
So you've been out of.
So I've been totally.
You're not really
out
tapped into the manosphere, right?
Not really, no. Like,
but you know about the concept of the red pill, not from the political angle,
right,
but
yeah,
the red pill as in. Like the misogynist red pill, I guess.
So my understanding of the kind of the intersection between MGTOW and incel and red pill is that obviously you have like a hateful, extreme misogynist fringe.
Yeah.
But that you also have like a moderate
Yes, I would call
just acknowledging that like society and marriage and the traditional family and so on don't really work in the best interests of like young single men in our society.
Yes.
And the incentive structure that would have incentivized their parents to get married, have careers, have children doesn't exist anymore because of, I'd say, economic and cultural degradation of our society.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's scary or misogynistic or deserves to be censored.
Literally, it's like the male version of female dating strategy, which was like the subreddit that got banned off of Reddit.
Oh, it got banned?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist anymore.
I did not know that.
Where it's like pretty much a group of men who are just like, yeah, you know, fuck these women, we don't need them, we're just going to focus on self-improvement, lifting weights, etc., making money. Kind of thing.
Wasn't female dating strategy? I thought that was for women to do that.
No, I was gonna say it's like MGTOW is like the male version of that, but I think it's even less extreme from my very basic surface level understanding of it. Whereas, you know, there are groups of pretty much the media. So I guess for some reason when it's like women groups, whether it's the femcells or female straight dating strategies who say horrific, horrible thing about men, that gets ignored. But MGTOW just saying like, yeah, you know what, I'm fine just not dealing with any women in general. I want to be by myself. Yeah, I'm just gonna, you know, lift weights and
they're opting out.
Yeah, basically they're opting out of dating. Yes,
and then they're called misogynists because they're opting out of dating.
Yeah.
But then when we read articles about dating, it's all about how the men who are dating are misogynistic.
Yes.
So.
Or the men who want to date but can't, like the incels, are misogynistic.
Okay, true.
Because they'll go and like shoot up a bunch of people. Because, you know, it's just, like, it's so weird.
It's so broad. Like, the word incel means different things to different people. I just took it literally because, again, I'm not really in these circles. I don't pay that much attention to them until they're brought into the political light of day. And that's when I start paying attention. So I always, I'm sorry, I lost the thread. What the hell were we just saying?
The words mean something
Oh,
different.
incel, right. Like, I always took the term incel literally
Yeah.
as just meaning involuntarily celibate.
It was started by a woman who she just couldn't get laid.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Basically, my point is that this whole controversy shows that the media and the public at large just misunderstands internet culture and internet terminology. Like, purposely and maliciously, they just don't understand the nuances of this kind of language. Because the internet is very ironic. You know, you use these terms, and a lot of people will use these terms, but not in a literal kind of sense. Like, the whole idea of a meme is irony. And the whole MGTOW thing, red pill, incel, has become sort of memed, where it's almost exists in a post-ironic kind of sense. But in a media headline, they want to elicit a reaction from you, from, you know, boomer grandmas. So they don't have any desire to convey that. And politicians like Trudeau and the Liberals will use that because they know most people are dumb and they don't waste their time on these forums and stuff trying to understand it. You know what I mean? This isn't to, like, condone the MGTOW movement or any movement. It just shows that I'm just saying that the media doesn't really understand the nuances of these things.
Yeah.
And, like, the idea that, like, Pierre Poilievre himself is hashtagging these videos too.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
that's
like
just silly,
some
guys.
staffer who thought, you know what, our demographic is young men and this is a popular
Let's see
thing.
which hashtags are trending with men 18 to 35.
Yeah, who knows if the staffer even knew like what it stood for.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. They could have literally just been looking at a list of hashtags and been like, oh, men going their own way. That sounds harmless. Let's throw that in here. Like,
and they did the same thing with Jordan Peterson when Poilievre went on the Peterson podcast. Not to compare Peterson to MGTOW, because that's a whole nother. He's not even close to being MGTOW. You know what I mean? He's been happily married and he encourages men
but
in
he's the
particular to
king
get
of
married.
the incels, Peter. Haven't you heard?
Literally, he encourages men to get married. His answer to everything is get married and have children.
Yeah, have a family. Yeah.
Literally, like, the least misogynistic person you could find. So they just conflate everything and they profit off of our stupidity, and it works a lot of the time. But for this, I don't think it will work. So, like, let's talk about the political implications. How do you think he played it? If you're in his position, because I've been wrestling with this, do you A, apologize, or B, don't apologize? And
I
C,
would
doesn't
not
even
apologize.
matter. If you wouldn't?
100%.
Yeah.
Now, I have not seen the footage of Poilievre addressing this.
He basically said, we condemn this, and moving on to Trudeau, you're racist and
Okay,
sexist.
and fair and well played.
He
Like,
basically condemned it and then immediately shifted to Trudeau.
I wouldn't have even conceded anything at that point. And you know, again, would I have hashtagged these videos with MGTOW myself? No.
Yeah.
But in his position, like, I don't think he has anything to apologize for.
Yeah.
Frankly, I don't even think the staffer involved really has anything to apologize for.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a nothing burger that they're trying to turn into a divisive, polarizing scandal around one poorly understood term that is being used to describe this whole alleged community of people with these alleged hateful beliefs.
It's like the Proud Boys thing in the 2020 debate with Trump and Biden, where it literally is the Proud Boys thing, where they try to get you on record condemning something. And, like, so basically you can either take the Trump route or the Poilievre route, where Trump's like, Proud Boys, stand back.
Yeah, that's the thing. If I'm Poilievre, literally I'm standing up in the house and I'm saying, MGTOWs,
stand back.
Stand back and stand by.
But then CNN or CTV will play that over and over again.
They were going to do that anyway.
Well, yeah, I guess. But this is why I'm conflicted, okay? Because it's like,
I get it. You're right. It is actually worth discussing.
the people that Poilievre is reaching don't give a fuck about MGTOW, right? This isn't going to be what flips them over the edge. If you actually care about some shady, misogynist internet group hashtag,
then you've already been, like, terrified of voting conservative your whole life.
so you're not gonna.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So maybe give that gives a point to your point, but also on my perspective, I think condemning it just kind of gets it out of the way, so you could move on.
Yeah,
and the
okay.
news
You're,
cycle
like,
will
resetting
die.
the news cycle.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because if he didn't, then they just be playing it over and over again, saying Pierre Poilievre refuses to condemn misogyny.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I
You're right.
mean?
You're right. That's a good
Because
point.
with the Trump thing, it's about doing what's right or what's politically expedient.
Yeah, and sometimes you
What
do
Trump
have
did-
to do the politically expedient thing to do the right thing, as much as I hate to say it.
What Trump did was right, maybe, I guess, but it wasn't politically
No,
expedient.
it definitely was not politically
What Poilievre did
expedient.
was politically expedient. Maybe it wasn't right.
Yeah, no, that's true.
You know?
About the whole MGTOW attack in general, though, I see it as Bitcoin too.
Yeah, 100%.
It's another case
a
of
nothing
them being,
burger.
the Poilievre's associated with this fringe online movement.
At the end of the day, it really has no bearing on anything going forward.
You're right.
Like, we're probably spending more time discussing it than most people will even care, you know?
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because his response, I liked it where it was even better than an apology, because he spends like literally 2 seconds apologizing, quote unquote, and then he goes into, Trudeau, you wore blackface, what's good? You know what I mean? You're racist.
fair.
Like, I like that. Like, I've never seen the Conservative Party so good at punching back, like counter-striking, like,
well, that's his
you know what I
specialty.
mean? He's the attack dog.
Yeah.
Because for years, people were like, oh, he can't be the leader. He's the attack dog. He's going to turn off,
They saw it as a bad thing.
yeah, suburban grandmas. But no, that's literally his appeal. Because people who are conservative, even people who are in the middle, are tired of being the punching bag for the libs and the lib media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They want a fighter, someone who's going to fight. It's the same with Town Mall Care. Angry Tom,
Yes.
before the
Oh
election,
my God, dude.
turned into awkward teddy
Soft
bear Tom.
Grandpa Tom.
Yeah, it just didn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, no, it was
People
terrible.
want a fighter. They don't want a soy boy, for lack of a better word. You know what I mean?
Especially when they've been silenced and marginalized for years, as they have been at this point. They need someone who's actually going to go to bat for them and who's not going to apologize for the people who are trying to make them lose their jobs, their educations, and so on, the way that people like the notorious MRG
Exactly.
wind up doing.
Yeah. So if anything, I think it's still a win for Pierre. Honestly, you know what I mean?
No, you're right.
Like,
Based
at
on,
the end of the
on
day-
your description of how he handled it,
Yeah.
politically, it seems like a solid victory.
Yeah, the party was behind him. Like,
I'm sure they were like jeering and heckling in.
100% they were. They
Yeah.
couldn't even let Trudeau get through his second statement. So yeah, it was just, and you could just see the glee in Trudeau's face. Like, he got him. Like, no, try better next time, buddy. Please. We want to be able to. This is our challenge to you. I'm going to challenge.
Oh my Lord.
I'm going to offer $100 on $100 bounty on anyone who could actually find some legitimate dirt on Pierre Poilievre. That is going to come straight from the Pennant account. $100 if you could find legitimate, real dirt that we could report on. I'm talking to you, the PMO office, you, CTV, CBC, Global News. I will personally pay you $100 if you could find some real dirt on Pierre Poilievre. Because we've been waiting.
Yes.
The clock is ticking.
It's been ticking since February.
Yes, and nothing still. So, please.
No, it's all Pat King,
Yes.
Freedom Convoy,
Yes.
Bitcoin,
Yes.
MGTOW.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So, please, we're begging you. You know, we want to be able to criticize this dude for something. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Some sort of character flaw or
I'm
slip up.
sick of carrying the guy's water. I'm looking for the opportunity to blast Pierre Poilievre, okay?
Yes.
Like, I'm serious.
So, yeah. Anything else on PD this week in PDS?
I can't think of anything. I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah. What else? There's something about the recession being inevitable. There's
Oh, yeah.
university professors. I don't know. What do you want to...
Okay, yeah, we could do the university professors one and then just very briefly talk about the economy.
Okay. Yeah. What's your take on...
So there was recently a National Post article talking about a report about the political leanings of Canadian academics.
Mm-hmm.
And it found that 88% of university professors, that's 9 in 10, cast a vote for a left-of-center party in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Only 9% of professors voted for a right-of-center party,
Yeah.
compared to 39% of Canadians generally.
Yeah.
So academia is horrifically skewed. Obviously, we've known that forever. We've all seen data.
We've lived through it.
We've lived through it.
Literally, you had that prof that told you an English lit
Oh
prof.
my God, dude.
Told you in the last election, I hope no one votes conservative or something like that.
She said something along the lines of, I don't want you guys to vote for Andrew Scheer. This was in 2019. This is a literal sentence uttered by one of my professors at Carleton University.
Yeah.
So obviously, and you know, it's English literature, so I mean, obviously, right? Like, I wasn't surprised that that's how they felt. I was surprised that they were so open about it.
Yeah.
This is the same professor who like canceled a class once so people could go to an Extinction Rebellion protest.
I'm sorry.
I'm literally not making this up. I swear this is all true.
Extinction Rebellion sounds like a bad, like, 1990s John Travolta movie.
Or like a really bad, like
a
late
sci-fi
80s
movie.
punk band.
Yeah. Extinction Rebellion! It's the end of the world! Extinction Rebellion! You know?
Yeah. Oh my God. I could go on all day about left-wing professors, but anyway. I'm not gonna say the faculty, but I was courted to do a grad program at Carleton, and I decided against it in part because I knew that I would have to be in the closet for years without slipping. Like, I knew that I could not let my mask slip, or it would be the end of me in that field.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've grown up in Ottawa, and I've been around progressives my whole life, and I'm a former progressive, and blah, blah, blah. So I know how to talk like these people.
Oh, for sure.
I know how
You
to
could
talk
code
to
switch.
these people. I can code switch.
You could do it every day.
But it's exhausting.
It is. It really is.
I don't want to be in that environment.
Yeah.
And 57% of right-of-center professors admit to self-censorship. That's well more than half. That's almost 2/3 of right-of-center professors feel like there will be social and professional consequences if they openly state their beliefs.
Because they're not wrong. Look at the Jordan Peterson shit. Look at Lindsay Shepard. Remember her?
Yeah.
She showed the Jordan Peterson clip, right?
And she
Not even
caught
the
hell
clip.
for it.
Not even a clip.
It was a clip from The Agenda.
With Steve Bacon.
Steve Bacon. Can you believe somebody got canceled for showing Steve Bacon in Ontario? That's reprehensible.
Yeah, reprehensible. Sacrilege, even. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's crazy. Where does this stem from? I know you told me something a few years back about active kind of communist infiltration in our schools.
Well, yeah, that's true. Sometimes you'll hear people on the right talk about the Gramscian Long March to the institutions.
Yeah.
So this is inspired by Antonio Gramsci, the Italian anarchist, who's most famous for his prison notebooks. See, I can talk lefty.
Yeah.
But essentially, the institutions were occupied. And again, I don't want to make this out like it's some grand conspiracy that one person ordered with a secret cabal of whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is, the academy, which used to be much more balanced, and in fact you had right-wing bias in some faculties.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Now it's like other faculties, it's like 17-1, 99-1.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were just talking about our 1 in 10 right-leaning conservative Canadian academics. But that's not in every faculty, right?
Yeah, and it's not just academia. Obviously, it's Hollywood, it's the media.
It's all of the core kind of institutions.
Now. Sports is the saddest part.
Sports is terrible, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people like, I think Jamil Hill is like, she was like an ESPN.
Yep.
Like,
ESPN
commentator.
is now just another auxiliary for like the WAPO Atlantic worldview.
It's like MSNBC.
It is. And look at Keith Olbermann. Keith
my
Olbermann's
goodness.
been going back and forth between MSNBC and ESPN for decades.
He lost it, man. Yeah. Oh my god. I'll never get those like cringy videos. And this is back when I was like a never Trumper, I guess. He would like make these long monologue direct to camera takes about how like the walls are closing in on Donald Trump. You know what I mean?
He's the face of Blue Anon.
Yeah, literally. It's embarrassing. But yeah, academia, Gramsci aside, what is it? Is it just hiring people and you just have that culture and it festers, I guess, and you get reinforced? And I guess it's the self-censorship thing too, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you get people to self-censor, you know, that's when it really gets dangerous, because then you're like, you don't even know who could potentially be on your side or agree if everyone is just agreeing to agree.
Well, look at the pandemic, and again, we're on YouTube here, so I got to be careful. But during the pandemic, what did you see? In Canada, you walk around, everyone is wearing a mask because it's mandated by law. So what's the message? The message is everyone is complying.
Yeah.
There's no way we can generate enough of a social consensus to push back against some of these restrictions. So we just accept it, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with politics in places like university or, the workplace in Ottawa. In Ottawa in general, this is something that I really identify with because, again, I'm from charade country.
Yeah.
Like, I've grown up in Ottawa Centre my whole life.
Yeah.
And I've self-censored myself mercilessly, for years because I don't want to put my friends or my family or any of these people in awkward positions where they have to apologize for the fact
100%.
that I'm open about what I believe.
There's certain friends where, like, I don't even feel comfortable, like, inviting them on this show or having involvement.
I don't want to put them in that position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know what I mean? How do you explain that,
And it's really important to me that we do show the left-wing perspective as well, and that we engage with left-wingers and so on.
But the thing is, they're going to cancel those left-wingers for engaging with people like us.
Yeah.
Or anyone who even questions the narrative. Like, it's not even that those people, the left-wingers themselves, are the issue. It's collectively for even those left-wingers who do not even speak out, but just engage with the other side. They're going to be reprimanded and canceled for even acknowledging the other side. And that's the real scary thing, is that lack of debate,
Yeah.
Like, I'll never forget, I think the thing that started to kind of pull me away from that kind of left-wing university consensus was, and it's a miracle, honestly, I got to thank the fucking, I think it was the Political Science Society at Carleton. Honestly, they were kind of secretly based in a lot of ways. That wasn't completely taken over. I think they were
actually centrists, not Marxists.
Yeah, because they had some conservative party, not operatives, but like young conservatives who were on the exec at the time. So they held a free speech debate. I forget who was on the I don't want to say it was the anti-free speech side, but effectively the pro-censorship side. But I'll never forget the guy who was on the pro-free speech side. And I think he was part of, like, I don't want to misquote the organization. I think it was the Justice Center for Freedom or Civil Liberties or something. And pretty much he was arguing in favor of, like, unlimited free speech to a degree. Like, I forget the exact term. He said he was a free speech absolutist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Did you go to this debate?
No, but I've certainly heard the phrase free speech absolutism. I've probably used it to describe myself.
And it completely shifted my worldview, because I was of the opinion that, like, yeah, you have free speech, but you have reasonable limits. But he showed me a vision of a world where you could say whatever you want, and period. You just say whatever you want. You don't need to qualify it.
Censor a little bit.
Yeah. The idea is that the only way to tackle speech is with more speech. And it completely shifted my worldview. Agree. I talked to him after. He's a very nice dude, but if you read the media, people like him would be scary fascists.
Oh,
the
he's
people
a neo-Nazi
who want to allow you to speak more.
Yeah.
And I feel like I keep on going back and saying, like, if I hadn't been able to attend that debate on purpose on campus, who knows what I'd be thinking. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have evolved, but you know what I mean? It was a crucial step in my evolution, I guess, as a thinker. And yeah, it's just insane that I feel like there will be less. I don't even know if a debate like that could happen now.
No, I don't think so.
That was like 2017-ish,
Yeah.
So.
A lot has changed in 5 years.
That's the thing.
Shit. And especially now, like, the biggest repercussion of the pandemic is this whole idea that speech has to be controlled from the top
100%.
down.
You could use this to segue into just to mention how they started putting tags on YouTube videos about climate change.
Yep.
And so, like, literally you'll see some videos fuck, what was I was watching an unrelated, I follow the Royal Family channel, okay? Just the most fluff piece commentary on the royal family, showing them, they'll be like, King Charles and Camilla went to this church and congratulated these people and opened up this farmer's market or whatever. The most fluff piece content ever, you know what I mean? But literally they did this piece about how King Charles, the Liz Truss government wasn't going to let him go to COP27 for political reasons, I guess. And underneath it was this tag about climate change, and literally they say, it shows this it's a tag that says context, climate change. It links to a page on the United Nations climate action website where it says, what is climate change? Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, such as through variations in the solar cycle, but since the 1800s, it underscores it, human activities have been the main driver of climate change. And it's like, who the fuck asked for this? And why are they doing this? Because they want to manipulate you at every stage, at school, at home, at work, when you're sitting on the toilet taking a shit, watching videos about fucking King Charles. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is dangerous, you know? And I wanted to ask you, to kind of wrap up this topic, what do you think about pro-free speech laws? Because I know, I imagine Pierre Poilievre has talked about it. Different conservative politicians have brought it up. I'm sure Andrew Scheer has campaigned on that in the past. I feel like DeSantis may have enacted some of the pro-free speech laws, where I don't know if the university's funding is tied to them kind of guaranteeing that they protect speech. But I'm wondering what your take on such laws is, and if they're even enforceable. Yeah. And if it goes against the idea of libertarian principles and freedom.
Well, that's the thing. Ideally, I wouldn't want the government interfering with speech on campus at all, because that alone kind of offends my more libertarian sensibilities. But obviously, we're in a real crisis here, where your professors are openly telling you who not to vote for and blah blah blah. Yeah. Like, obviously, we're long past the point of no return now, where this might balance itself out. Something does probably need to be done. The problem is they're going to deal with it in this, the right is showing up on campus and telling professors to do this and do that and blah, blah, blah. So obviously it's not going to be received in good faith. No. And you're right. The idea that there can be some kind of enforceable legislation or something that creates room for freedom of speech on campus. Who knows what they can even do that would actually be ultimately enforceable. So I have to admit, despite the fact that they have passed laws in Quebec and in the UK, I'm not entirely convinced that that is A, going to be done in English Canada, and B, that it will actually accomplish anything. Unfortunately, I think the status quo at university, where there's only one prefabricated set of beliefs that are socially acceptable, and any divergence from that is ostracized and marginalized with social and professional consequences. Sadly, I think that's probably here to stay. The only question is, how much does the value of our university education and the perceived credibility of our universities as institutions have to plummet before they start realizing that they have a problem to fix? That they're undermining their own credibility and the health and the strength and the continuity of their own institutions by turning them into these partisan bodies that are essentially weaponized to political ends.
That's the thing, because I feel like more than anything, it will probably take a cultural shift that needs to happen over a generation. Because if you think about it, it's almost easier to kind of regulate the internet in a pro-free speech way. Like the whole Section 230, people say that Trump should have just gotten rid of it when he had the chance, which basically protects social media companies as platforms and not publishers, so that they don't have the due diligence. They don't have to follow libel law or anything like that. They don't have the due diligence to present both sides, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I could conceive of that more easily than fixing campuses. You know what I mean? Because you're not dealing with like the campus, I guess, is a platform, but it really is people, you know? Yeah. And that's harder. It's a culture more than anything, you know?
Well, how does the federal government regulate what the students' union wants to do?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Or what the
example.
faculty, the staff, the admin staff.
Clubs.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I don't know. Like, if someone found, like, I need to read some of these free speech laws, but if someone found a way to do it that wasn't that intrusive, but then at the same time, you kind of have to be, basically, ideally, if there was some sort of charter of rights for students where you had the right to academic freedom, I guess maybe be a better way to put it, you know, to kind of explore different ideas and not be stifled for showing different viewpoints, political or otherwise, then maybe, you know, you could, if you found a violation of that, you could challenge it in the courts, but then that's entirely up to the courts. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there has to be, someone needs to figure out what that bill would look like, and then what the enforcement mechanism would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that just doesn't seem clear to me at the moment.
And at that point, are you arguing over grades? Like, because that's another thing too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I literally talked to a prof once in the States who admitted there was a girl in his class that he didn't like because she was a Trumpist.
Yeah.
And he intentionally gave her bad grades. I swear to God.
Yeah.
So.
Which state was it? If you're gonna, or no, you're not. I don't know. It's up to you. I'm just curious, but okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds believable. Fuck. What was I gonna say? Yeah. Basically, it's gonna take actual people more than a law to actually shift the culture. The culture. You know, people standing up and speaking out on campus. Until then, all of this is for naught. You know.
It almost goes back to the free speech wall controversy.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm fuzzy on this. This is a local story for us.
It's
7 years ago.
A very long time ago now. I don't think we were even in university for that.
Or if we were like first year or something.
Yeah.
Maybe I was in first year.
You might have been, yeah.
At any rate, there was a free speech wall on campus. Some libertarian club or something put it up. And it was defaced and removed by a left-wing agitator, and that became kind of a cause célèbre among the campus left.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Wasn't there like some slurs or something? I don't know the origin of those, but...
Yeah, but imagine if you were Mr. Marxist undergrad.
Well, yeah.
You know. Oh,
for sure. There's definitely a lot of like red and false flagging, I guess.
Especially on campus.
Yeah.
Like the thing is... okay. I have to be very careful what I say here because I want to make a very specific truth claim. Campuses have a much higher proportion of fake hate crimes
for
than
sure.
non-campuses.
100%, yeah.
And I will leave it there.
Well put. Yeah, I guess, is that all for this topic? Do you feel... Honestly, how can you feel optimistic?
I don't feel optimistic at all. The only optimism I have is that someday people will acknowledge that our current post-secondary system is probably lost. It is probably beyond repair, beyond salvage, and we probably need to come up with a different model. Yeah, I really don't know much else to say there. If you're enrolling in the arts or social sciences, I mean, like, you're going to be reading a lot of political propaganda.
Basically, this is an advertisement for trade school, I guess.
Yeah, kinda. And that doesn't really solve all of the problems either.
Yeah.
Because, well, you know, for one, it's hard to even tell in this climate if you're even going to be allowed to go to school.
Yeah.
Or if there's going to be some kind of a lockdown or a mandate that's going to be thrown up at the last minute and prevent you from enrolling.
Yeah. Damn.
So yeah, it's not promising, but if we somehow manage to divorce academic credentials from the way that we screen for potential employees, then maybe there is an upside to this after all. But it is hard to see the institution being salvaged.
Yeah. So you want to talk about the economy, Canada being the worst performing advanced economy over 2020, 2030? I didn't actually read.
I'll just do a super quick hit on this.
Yeah.
We have the worst economy in the G7. We are projected to have the worst economy of basically any industrialized Western country from the 2020 to 2030 period. And the long-term projections are pretty bad as well. We are also projected to be at the very bottom of the list between 2030 and 2060. Now, of course, that's pretty far off in the future. It's hard to make an accurate projection that far. Who knows what could possibly happen? But the point is, the outlook here in Canada does not look good. We've known this for quite some time, I feel like. Of course, many of our officials, elected, appointed, whatever, were denying that we were getting into such hot water, kind of minimizing the economic challenges that we are positioned to now face. But yeah, we seem to be heading into a recession by next year, and it seems like things are not going to get better here for another, 38 plus years. It's a pretty grim prognosis for our nation's economic performance.
Yeah, how do we turn that around so it's not a completely doomer post segment?
Well, we can start by making more than one private sector job for every 9 public sector jobs. That might be a start.
It's basically the idea, what is the cause of this? Is it just the spending? Is it just lockdowns? Is it everything? Supply chain? Like,
I'd say we probably have an overly integrated economy with the whole global supply chain. There's probably more stuff that we should be doing on our own that we were not. And as a result, are dealing with all of these supply chain issues and delays. There's the fact that we've been pissing on our own domestic energy sector for decades.
Oh yeah, that's a big factor, yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff going on. And frankly, a good chunk of the country is welfare trapped. And I'm not just talking about unemployed people on benefits. I mean, even our workforce is welfare trapped, largely into cushy public sector positions where they have high job security and benefits. But, that's unsustainable now. Anyway.
That's the thing. It's a lot,
It's a lot.
Basically, this idea, like I was reading, this is somewhat related. Maybe I was reading the platform, the costed platform of the leading mayoral candidate locally in Ottawa, Catherine McKenney. And basically, this platform was saying that, the thesis of it was that you need to be able to spend money to make money, basically. So basically, in a time of economic despair and recession, the fiscally prudent thing was to spend money so that we could stimulate the economy, spend money on bike lanes and stuff. Not like I really want to do a good job of like trying to give them credit for, but you know what I mean? I'm basically citing this.
We'll do a municipal segment at some point.
It's
not today.
It's the same kind of attitude that Trudeau had when he came in 2015 off of the supposed.
Oh, debt is cheap right now.
Yeah, supposed surplus that the Conservative government handed the Liberals, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna spend money to invest in the Canadian public, and they just never stop spending. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not saying I have all the answers. I've had conversations with people who identify more socialist, and they all just believe that, we have an endless supply of money. And even if we don't, they just think, like, morally, it's the right thing to do, to spend to help people. And I'm not saying that's completely from a bad place, but it just seems like there's no one pretends to be fiscally responsible anymore. There's no even lip service paid to it. It's just, we're just going to keep racking everything up. Yeah, and it's like, they just spend it on ridiculous things. I don't even, you know what I mean? Like, how did that mindset become so dominant,
Yeah. Well, it's the classic problem, I think, politically, of it's always easier to advocate for something than against something.
Yeah.
So when you're taking the limited government, fiscally responsible position, sadly, it's kind of the loser's position.
Yeah.
Because it's much easier to run around saying, oh, no, we're going to buy X, Y, and Z, rather than saying, yeah, we're not going to put your kids into debt. You're welcome.
Yeah.
But that should be good enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's partially an electorate problem. Another huge problem in Ottawa is that here we're isolated from the actual ramifications of the economic policies that are popular here.
Oh, for sure.
So there are rich people, whether they're university professors or lawyers or whatever.
Yeah.
There are people that are in the Ottawa bubble. Their job is protected for life. They're guaranteed to be making 6 figures for life with benefits, blah, blah, blah. Probably get to send their kids to school for free on top of all that. those people are never going to feel the effects of a failing economy, and they're never going to feel the full effects of inflation.
That's true.
So I don't think it's a huge surprise that in a city like Ottawa, economic reality is never going to break through fully.
So maybe we need to defund all these think tanks and bureaucratic superstructures.
Oh, well,
you know what I mean? That come up with these ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, literally, it's the ivory tower. They're just in this glass bubble, and they never have to, like, you know, deal with the ramifications of their decisions. You know?
It's like institutional corporate socialism.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of where we've arrived now. So it's like this weird top-down totalitarian model.
Yeah.
Model of centralization and censorship and message control and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But with all of these left-wing talking points as window dressing.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, you know, 20 years ago, it was not a left-wing thing to apologize for corporations and CEOs. And now here we are. They still pay lip service of, oh no, we're going to tax the hell out of them. But like, you know, who's really shaking hands with Laurene Powell Jobs and Jeff Bezos and whatnot? It's ironically not the limited government pro-business right, but it's the corporate communism.
Who benefited from mom and pop businesses being shut down for 2 years, you know what I mean? Like, you could still go to Walmart, but you couldn't go to any restaurant, you know?
Yep.
So.
Well, Walmart is a left-wing corporation.
Yeah.
All of these corporations are now left-wing in terms of their political donations, their social stances, you know. So this whole idea that there's still, you know, anti-corporate grassroots on the left, like, no, not really.
And speaking of, I guess, lockdown, you want to pivot into, I guess, well, there's also the Don Meredith thing, but I don't know if you have anything to...
I just have one sentence.
Okay.
Don Meredith got Me Too'd again.
Yeah.
That's it. That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah. We'll just, you know. Aaron O'Toole.
Oh, you called this on the last podcast.
Yeah.
So, you know, everyone, please leave a nice comment on this video about how Peter was right last week.
Yeah.
When he said that part of the reason Aaron O'Toole lost was the whole panic of, oh, Alberta is overrun with the virus and it's all Jason Kenney's fault, blah, blah, blah. Which goes back to our conversation earlier about how Jason Kenney turned into a Trudeau Liberal on pandemic issues. Mm-hmm. And apparently that wasn't good enough to stop him from being a threat to the Aaron O'Toole campaign.
Yeah.
Anyway. But Aaron O'Toole basically blamed the COVID situation in Alberta and in Canada as costing his campaign. And honestly, he might have a point.
Yeah, it definitely didn't help. Like last week I was pointing out how like it was a double whammy of him going back on pretty much all of his conservative principles. And definitely some of the most important ones. And the pandemic numbers raging in Alberta and using Jason Kenney as this scary boogeyman kind of thing. So yeah, it was an unfortunate scenario that he found himself in. He didn't help himself by capitulating on everything.
No.
If he did, maybe he would have stood a better chance. But the whole pandemic thing was nail in a coffin.
It killed him on both sides.
Yeah.
It hurt him with his center-left base, and it obviously hurt him with the right wing of the party as well.
100%, yeah. So what was his words exactly? Like, how did he interpret that? Was it more from a right-wing based perspective or left-wing media kind of?
I think it was more of the left-wing media perspective, which I mean, hardly a surprise. I don't think O'Toole is publicly going to say, I shouldn't have flip-flopped on guns and mandates, guys.
Yeah. Let me see if I could find this quote. He says he would have been prime minister just over a year ago if a resurgence of COVID in the final week of the general election hadn't spooked voters.
I don't buy that fully, but
yeah,
it was definitely a factor.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the media played it pretty well. So props to them. They did their job. They earned their $600 million.
Well, that's the thing, because the Libs, you know, they put in the vaccine passport and they did all this shit, and I don't even know what was O'Toole's stance on passports.
That's the thing. He didn't really have a stance on passports.
Yeah.
Originally, he had the same stance that everybody else had, including Justin Trudeau.
Which was
it's
un-Canadian.
It's un-Canadian.
Yeah.
And then that disappeared pretty quick.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we had to judge Aaron O'Toole's real pandemic policy from who he was allowing in his shadow cabinet and stuff like that.
Yeah, who he didn't allow
Who
in
he
the
didn't allow in the shadow cabinet, including Leslyn Lewis, because she would not disclose her vaccination status.
Yeah.
And based on those things, it sure started to seem like, okay, at the point where you're enforcing a mandate within your own caucus, you're probably down for a federal mandate, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So, I don't know. Aaron O'Toole deserves to wear that for eternity.
Yeah. I don't know, man. How will history treat him? Or how should he be treated?
I mean, honestly, I think he's one of the most forgettable figures in Canadian history. I will always remember Aaron O'Toole.
Well, but I don't think
other people will.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't think he should be forgettable. I think it's an important inflection point in our history. It's just he had a chance to seize the moment and do something memorable, and he just capitulated in. I mean, and for the political right in Canada, that was a generational moment. Oh, for sure, yes.
So I'm not understating the importance of the 2021 election at all. It really was one of the most important elections.
Poilievre wouldn't have been leader.
Yeah. It precipitated the political climate that we have now.
Yeah.
In a big way.
100%. Just his refusal to act pushed literally millions of people all over the country and all over the world to act.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
You know what I mean?
All those other convoys that caught on in other countries like New Zealand, the Netherlands.
You might not have had a convoy movement or had any need for it if people actually had a voice in the Conservative Party of Canada at the height of the pandemic.
If Bernier had won in 2017, there's no convoy.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, I guess on to Peter Slowly. On his statement to the Mercies Act Committee. Let me find this article, but pretty much he is basically saying that he was undermined internally.
Real quick, Peter Slowly was the former chief of the Ottawa Police.
Yes.
And during the events of February 2022, he was relieved of his duties by Diane Deans. Who chaired the Police Services Committee. Diane Deans was at the time going to run for mayor. Ironically, by removing Slowly more or less unilaterally, she torpedoed her own bid for mayor before the campaign even began.
Well, I don't know if she removed him. She tried to find his replacement unilaterally, going over the mayor's head and the committee's head.
Right.
Peter Slowly resigned, but he felt like he was pressured to resign. He cited a declining level of trust within the Ottawa Police Service, and he basically felt like trust had eroded between his leadership and his fellow officers and the Ottawa Police Association, which is like the police union. You know what I mean? Pretty much, he felt like he was, even before the convoy stuff, he felt like he was being undermined and pressured. He said the Ottawa Police Association had pressured him to step down in the past, but not over the convoy response. So even before the convoy happened, he was being forced out because he was seen as like a progressive police chief who had, disbanded the guns and gangs unit. He wanted to re-implement community policing to try and repair the Ottawa Police's reputation with black and, marginalized communities. And the convoy was just his lack of action on the convoy, because he had a lack of resources, was a convenient excuse to push him out, and he had no choice by that time.
But then my question is, why would Diane Deans or Catherine McKenney or anyone else want to push out this, woke progressive police chief?
Well, I think it was more the cops wanted to push him out.
Oh, the cops wanted to push him out. Okay.
Well, I guess before the cops, his fellow cops wanted to push him out, and then everyone wanted him gone.
Okay.
But
fair enough. Yeah.
It had kind of went beyond just the police themselves at that point.
That makes sense. Yeah, because no one really has an opinion on the police chief here most of the time.
Bartolo was pretty odd.
Yeah, Bartolo was bad. Bern White had his moments.
Only if they're bad, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this was undoubtedly like, what's the word? Literally like the worst thing that could happen under a police chief in our city's history. Like objectively, not from a political angle, but just from like a policing perspective, It was a disaster.
Yeah, complete from top to bottom. Yeah.
You know what I mean? For the police, all levels of government, you know what I mean? So I don't know. What do you think about him being candid about it. He also said he didn't ask for the Emergencies Act. He just asked for support. They needed support in terms of trucks that could tow them, that were big enough. It just seemed like a mess. You know what I mean?
I mean, Slowly was the fall guy. Like, they did him dirty.
100%.
I obviously don't agree with everything that Peter Slowly did. I obviously don't agree with him about everything, but he did a decent job with the resources and the opportunities that he had available to him at the time, and he was thrown under the bus by our city council.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I guess there's not much else to say about that. And then the last in this string of topics, the Ottawa police cop who pled guilty to donating to the convoy. Yes. This particular cop donated on 2 different occasions around like $55. And I think basically my understanding is that the second donation was made after the police chief Slowly himself had declared the occupation to be illegal, or the protest to be illegal, on February 4th. So pretty much the cop prosecutor was saying that this person kind of willfully contributed to this illegal occupation by donating first to GoFundMe and then to GiveSendGo. And this information was found because these hackers hacked the GiveSendGo site, distributed all this information only to researchers and journalists. And then those journalists combed through it. The Toronto Star published this list of names, and I guess this officer's name was on the list. Yeah, it was a whole mess, but I don't know. What do you think about this officer kind of being put through this? I don't want to call it a show trial, but I'm at a loss for words.
The first donation should not have been held against her because it was before anything was declared to be illegal. In fact, it was before the mainstream media had even begun covering the Freedom Convoy.
Yeah.
Because the first official day of the convoy was January 29th.
Yeah.
And she donated the first day, January 23rd. And everybody played dumb when the convoy showed up in town, okay?
Yeah.
They were all like, oh, we had no idea this was going to happen.
Literally for weeks.
I knew for weeks. Okay, weeks. Like, do these people not have internet access? Everybody knew this was going to happen. At least anybody who pays even a modicum of attention to right-wing politics in Canada.
I guess to be fair, not to like defend the media, but the scale, I knew they were going to come, but pretty much I knew the occupation would happen, but I didn't know about the scale. But you're right, because the media, the police themselves,
they were shitting on it. They were like, "Oh,
they're just going to roll.
People are going to show up in Ottawa,
and they're going to roll through.
Joke, you guys.
They're going to basically, the media government perspective was that these people were just going to come through and literally roll through the city and move on after like a day, and that didn't happen. And I wasn't shocked that they stayed, because they literally said, "We are not leaving."
Yeah.
Until the mandates are overturned.
This was literally all baked in.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
Now they're just playing dumb. That's it.
Yeah. So, but what was your point about the cop?
Shouldn't have been held accountable for the first donation. Which is also proof that at least some members of the police were aware of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Then she gets punished for the second donation she makes on GiveSendGo.
Yeah.
She should have known better than that.
Yeah.
But not like in a cover her ass sense.
Yeah.
Not in a morality sense.
Yeah.
You know, like she should have covered her ass better. But otherwise, I mean, I don't think she did anything that was morally wrong or dishonorable.
Yeah. So, you guys could hear there's being visited from some geese.
Some geese passing by.
Super Canadian on brand for this podcast. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, if something feels wrong, like maybe, I don't even know if she broke any laws, to be honest, man.
No, I don't think she did.
Let's be honest here. These laws we've mentioned in a previous episode, these laws seem to just miraculously sprout up from the ground, and they're able to just conjure up mischief charges and unlawful protests. Like the idea that any protest is quote unquote unlawful, that's a made up term.
Yeah.
Completely made up. Like, you could do unlawful things during a protest is what they mean. I don't know if occupying a city street, a public street, is against the law. Like, if you're on private property,
standing on a public property holding a sign should never be a crime ever. Period. Full stop.
Yeah. I guess it's when you have truckers blocking stuff, but it wasn't even...
But even then, that's traffic violations. That's not criminal law.
No, exactly. 100%. Yeah, illegally parking. Yeah. That's what this whole thing is over. A parking ticket.
Yeah.
Paying for millions and millions in parking tickets. Like, yeah, you know, to the point where they've completely closed Wellington, and they're probably never going to open it again. You know what I mean? Like,
No, never. In fact, this was, it's like with 10 Downing Street in the UK. They put up fences and stuff at some point.
yeah.
But before that, it was literal public property. You could like walk into the backyard, basically. It was your house too.
Yeah.
And eventually they found some excuse and they put up barricades and stuff. And it's the same here. They just needed their excuse to like fortify downtown, and they found it, and they did.
Yeah.
And this whole idea of, oh, the trucks on Wellington Street were so destructive, you guys. Oh, all the ambulances and fire trucks couldn't get through. Okay, can you drive an ambulance or a fire truck down Wellington Street now? No, because now you can't drive down Wellington
Or even during
Street.
fucking rush hour traffic
It's
on
so
a regular
stupid.
day.
It's
you know,
so stupid.
Literally, the take one of my friends was giving me was that the CO2 from the fumes of the truck was going to damage the air quality to the point that people would develop cancer. This is an actual, it's not to make fun of this person, because, you know, they're my friend.
Yeah,
but
as
like,
if they don't inhale the fumes of 1 million automobiles every day.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man. People
Come
were really
on.
reaching.
Come on, they reached so hard. But the problem is, they were validated every time they reached. Like, remember Arson Gate? They claimed that those convoy supporters tried to burn down that building.
And then the police investigated and said no.
And now, to this day, liberal politicians still claim that a Freedom Convoy supporter tried to burn down a building.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the biggest thing that pisses me off with left-wing hypocrisy. Like, it's baked in. So don't get frustrated about it, generally speaking, okay? You have to just accept it, whatever. But the problem is, like, when they embrace something as fact, say that anything that runs contrary is disinformation and is weaponized by foreign enemies, and then when it turns out they were wrong all along, they just pretend nothing happened.
Yeah.
That is the worst cycle of left-wing gaslighting, and we live under it constantly in this country on every single issue.
Yeah.
Okay? You're evil because you believe the wrong thing, and then when you're vindicated, not only will you not even get your apology, they will deny having even ever disagreed with you in the first place.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Like, that's just how it goes. And you don't even think about it because you're just kind of used to it at this point, you know?
Every day there was a new stupid, spurious allegation. Freedom Convoy supporters did X, Y, or Z. And then 99% of the time it was total bullshit. And the remaining 1% of the time, it was like one guy that they found who said one thing.
Yeah, like the one I think about was like the Ottawa Mission allegedly. People were demanding food or something, and it's like, sure, maybe, but if that did happen, those were probably just some drunk assholes who may or may not have been loosely affiliated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, should they be used to paint the whole thing as bad? Obviously,
like, do I deny that in a nationwide protest, a few drunk assholes showed up? Absolutely not. I don't deny that.
Yeah.
You'll find that at every protest.
Exactly. But it's only this kind of protest that gets demonized for the few drunk assholes. You know what I mean?
Well, the shocking thing is, and again, I was out there every day, freezing my ass off. And I saw so little public intoxication.
Yes.
It was actually shocking.
Me too.
And in fact, when the convoy left, I remember going downtown with you and a few other people, and then all of a sudden you saw all of the drunk crazies back on the street who were gone for the past month.
The streets were the cleanest we've ever seen them. No garbage, barely any trash lying around. You know what I mean? It never felt safer to be out there.
Never.
You know what I mean? Like, it was immaculate how much.
And they were quite literally feeding and clothing people.
Yeah, how clean downtown was at that time. It's insane. Yeah.
And then, like, the day after, you have schizophrenics harassing you in the friggin' transit station again. And it's like, wow. And yet, apparently, this convoy was some crusade of harassment.
Yeah.
It's such a farce.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's why we were down there to see with our own eyes, and that's why we took video. So, there you go.
Yeah, I was going to say something. Oh, yeah, so let's say you're police chief, right? Police Chief Alex. How would you discipline this officer, if at all? or like should this be? Because I could almost see the argument that like,
well, she did get off kind of easy. 40 hours pay and having to attend an indoctrination session.
Okay, yeah, the indoctrination section is whack.
The indoctrination session is whack.
Yeah.
40 hours pay is not so bad. Whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that seems fair. I guess just this whole show trial.
That's exactly what it is. It's a show trial meant to quiet the dummies who somehow think that the convoy was in bed with Ottawa police.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even press charges if I was the prosecutioner. I would just,
Yeah, let it go.
Let her go without pay for however long, and you know what I mean?
The irony is, this woman was probably double vaccinated.
Definitely, yeah. If she was still serving at the time, then most likely. And like even the fact that like there are literally all police officers who have killed people.
Yeah.
who literally murder people in this city with their bare hands, and they got off. But this woman donated money to some truckers so they could sit in the cold for a month.
Yep.
And she's being punished and dragged through the mud more than the cops who literally killed a man.
Well,
with
that's
their bare
the worst
hands.
thing that she's facing right now, is the hit to her reputation.
We're talking about murder here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Manslaughter or something,
yeah,
homicide.
Murder.
Yeah.
Worse than murder.
Yeah.
That's what donating to the convoy was, It's ridiculous.
Yes.
So, yeah, free her, man. What's her name?
She doesn't even need to be freed. She just needs to not have her name dragged through the mud and have her professional reputation continue to be slandered by idiots who are disingenuous and act in bad faith.
Yeah. Okay.
And personally, as a lifelong resident of this city, I'm glad that this officer is patrolling the streets.
Is she? Well, was. I don't know if she's patrolling the streets now. But I get your point.
If they're making her attend an indoctrination session, it's because they're not firing her, right?
No, that's true.
It's like they can't make you go to a re-education session if they're firing you.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
Thank you for engaging with our content. Please leave a comment and let us know what you thought. Like and subscribe.
Just a thumbs up.
Check us out at pennant.ink, I-N-K, or on Twitter at pennant.ink.
Yeah, thank you for watching. Peace out, guys. Hit that like button.
Better do something, boy, don't do nothing. Better do something, boy, don't do nothing. Better do something, boy, don't do nothing. Better do something, boy, don't